In 1986, LJN released the second series of action figures from their popular toy line, ThunderCats. Many new characters were added, such as the mutant commander Rataro and Snowman of Hook Mountain. LJN also offered an exclusive mail-away figure with MummRa in his mummy form. And today, we'll be taking a look at Mummy Mumm-Ra here on Creed's Collection. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Creed's Collection. Today we are looking at the mail-away Mummy Mumm-Ra from the 1986 toy line ThunderCats by LJN. Mumm-Ra is an ancient evil being inhabiting Third Earth, a musty mummy with mystical powers, allowing him to communicate with ancient spirits of evil that grant him a temporary transformation from this decayed form to Mumm-Ra, the ever-living. He'll stop at nothing to steal the Sword of Omens from the ThunderCats and add its magical abilities to his own. And now that we know a little bit more about Mumm-Ra in his mummy form, let's go ahead and take a closer look. So the first thing I want to talk about Mumm-Ra is that he has a great face sculpt. He looks properly decayed. I like how one of his eyes looks kind of sunken in. So it gives him a really old mummy look. It's pretty good. As we pan down him, you can see that he looks really frail and decrepit, which is perfect because that's how he is on the show. He spends most of his time in this form, and he can only transform into his more powerful form for very short amounts of time, usually near the climax of the TV show. I like the fact that he is hunched over, and it actually looks like he needs his staff to walk around. Now, beyond his excellent face sculpt and the fact that he is properly hunched, you'll also notice that he has very excellent folds in his robes that make them look like they're gathering around his elbows. I like this sculpt, but ultimately it's kind of a downfall. We'll touch more on that in a second. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at Mumm-Ra's articulation, or lack of. He only really has shoulder joints that can go up like so, and then you can also tilt his head left and right like this, and that's it. That covers all of Mumm-Ra's articulation. He's pretty cool looking, but he's kind of a statue. And when I say statue, I really mean that, because now we're going to get back to the issue of his robes. So you can see that if you put his arms up, his robes look like they're defying gravity. So it's pretty obvious they had one specific pose for him in mind, and that was with his arms down like so that his robes looked like they were hanging properly. The only real solution to this that I can think of is if they would have given him cloth robes, but cloth robes can be real hit or miss. Sometimes they can look really cheap, so I'm actually glad they went with the molded plastic. It looks very faithful to the cartoon. And now we're going to go ahead and take a look at Mumm-Ra's only included accessory, his staff. It's a pretty great looking accessory in my opinion. I really like the color scheme, and the handle has a lot more texturing to it than you'd expect. It's kind of difficult to see because it's so dark, but here's a close-up just to give you a better idea of what it looks like. And here's also a close-up of the head of the staff. It's a pretty great looking skull. Again, I just really like this color scheme. I like the red on the teeth. But you know, it seems so familiar. I feel like some other villain carries a staff like this. Yes, it's me, you fool! Battle Armor Skeletor, you have really got to stop interrupting.
Well, you need to stop reviewing cheap imitations of me. Battle armor, scary staves, blue skin. I did it all first.
Okay, calm down. You got a point. You did do it all first. And we're going to get to you, I promise. Okay, and hopefully we can get through without any more interruptions. Anyway, here's the copyright information. 1985 Telepix, LJN Toys, made in Hong Kong. Now for our He-Man size comparison. As we've already established in previous episodes, ThunderCats figures are a pretty good scale to Masters of the Universe, and Mummy Mumm-Ra is no exception. His shriveled, decayed form actually looks like what I think a Masters of the Universe figure would look like if they were mummified. And here's our regular Mumm-Ra, Mummy Mumm-Ra size comparison, just so you can have an idea of how he looks in both forms. And if you're interested in my review of regular Mumm-Ra on the right, I'll have a link at the end of the episode if you want to check it out. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my toy review for Mummy Mumm-Ra from the 1986 toy line ThunderCats by LJN. Even though Mummy Mumm-Ra was an exclusive mail-away figure in 1986, he's not that hard to get because in 1987 they re-released him with the Mumm-Ra's Tomb Fortress playset. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a thumbs up. And if you have any thoughts, please leave a comment. I love reading and responding to them. And while you're at it, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it, and it would help my channel grow. I review a toy from my vintage collection every Wednesday, so I hope to see you next week and every week after, here on KREED'S Collection.